and welcome back to Why This Film, the podcast where we reach back into your childhood, pick out a movie, give it a rewatch, and have a chat about it. I'm Emily Slade, and welcome back.
You watched it so many times before, and now you're gonna watch it again. But it's been so many years since you last saw it, and now you show it to your friends, and they're like, "What?
What am I watching?
Why this?
What is this?
Why this film?"
And I'm joined today by Anna. Hello!
Hello.
Welcome. Your chosen movie is 1990's Three Men and a Little Lady. The IMDb breakdown. 3 ex-dads quickly discover how empty life is without their little lady and go to outrageous lengths in their efforts to win their daughter back in this critically acclaimed and equally charming sequel. So, why this film?
It is just pure 90s. It is as 90s as you can get. The clothes, the houses, just everything. It feels very... and it's New York. Always wanted to go to New York. Still haven't been. It's on my list.
On the list.
But I think what I really loved about it, it's 3 dads and they love this little girl more than they love themselves.
It's so wholesome and progressive.
Yeah, it is. It really, well before its time. They are co-parenting, 3 guys and mum in a house, and they are... she's got her biological dad, Jack, and she's got her honorary father and her other honorary father. And it just works. And 2 of the dads are creatives. One is an actor, the other is an artist.
Satirist,
yes. Yeah, and he's drawn this beautiful mural on her bedroom
so gorgeous.
Of the family. And it's wonderful. And her mum is a performer as well. She's an actor, and the other dad is an architect. So I'd say creative. And clearly all very wealthy. But they all live under one roof, and it's just a beautiful relationship. And as you say, it feels really progressive in that they're all just mucking in, and their thing in common is how much they love Mary.
They love her so much. It jumped off the screen. So I was vaguely aware of Three Men and a Baby as the initial one, and it always it's always been in the peripheral of my life of like, that's like almost like a joke movie.
Yeah.
Like it's a punchline movie. But I'd never seen it and I didn't know what it was about, and I can assume. And then this was the sequel, which on Letterboxd was having awful reviews, as sequels often do. And yet it delivers exactly what you want from a 1990 movie called Three Men and a Little Lady. And not only does it deliver exactly what you want, a wholesome, charming comedy, you're right, the absolute adoration, just seeing men unproblematically and with low stakes have this relationship with their daughter, because you never really get that in a movie. You never just get the stakes and the worries and the antagonizing isn't anything to do with the relationship between the daughter and the dads.
No.
Like, their relationship is wholesome and whole, and it remains so throughout the entire movie. Anything that's gonna hiccup that in terms of plot happens around that. And so there's never a moment where she's like, I hate you, or they're like, we can't do this anymore. It's always just, and when it gets close to things like that, it's just conversation, like so many conversations.
This is what I loved as well.
happen.
In the family dynamic, there is of course the 4 adults and Mary, who's the daughter. And how often is it? It's described in the film as a commune, but no, it isn't that. How often is it? Do you get 3 male friends who talk to each other, communicate well, as adults who are under the same roof? I just thought it's really beautiful, and you don't get men of that age with male friends that talk the way that they all talk to one another.
You don't see it in movies. You don't see it in real life. Like, it's almost fantasy. I had no idea. I think you can go into this assuming that they're going to fall into cliches and stereotypes of being secretive or annoyed at each other or all of these things, but every single thing that happens, and maybe it happens easily because it's a movie for kids, but I think they easily could have fallen into the stereotype holes, and they don't. They're just like, of course you can do that. I support you. Of course you can do that. I love you.
Whereas with a lot of 90s films, you'll watch and feel slightly uncomfortable at certain aren't there? There's always some like, it's not okay to even they even touch upon the important discussion around like how children are created. You know, the fact that Mary uses biological father. She may not know what that means. And the discussion they have, Mary is just starting school. She's between 4 and 5, and they all go for the interview. All 3 dads and the mum, and they talk about how unusual that setup is. And believe me, that setup still is unusual.
Yeah.
But it's less unusual now to have two mums or 2 dads. And I just think that a film like this, it feels very extreme, but also it's normal. They painted it really normally for their life.
Yeah, and even the conversations in the movie, the interviewers, at the school are just very much like, we can see that this is working and it is a bit unusual and we're just a bit wary about bullying. And then they come back with a perfectly reasonable response of like, well, lots of children in this school have stepfathers or half-fathers and it's the same thing. And they're like, yeah, all right then.
They
and
address it.
Done. Sorted.
Whereas, you know, in the night, that sort of thing, it wasn't talked about. I remember growing up with friends who felt really uncomfortable about saying that their parents were going through a divorce to me because my family were at that point a unit. And it's just really sad to think that a huge thing is happening in my friend's life and they don't want to talk about it because my parents were together at the time. I think, like, also for me, it was if your relationship with your dad, my dad isn't a massively creative person. He finds talking about feelings very difficult.
Oh, okay.
It's I really craved that relationship that Mary had with all 3 of her dads, because not only did they absolutely adore her, but they told her that they adored her.
Yes.
There are some beautiful lines in it. Jack, biological dad, said to her that, you know, you are my biggest accomplishment and probably the best thing that I will ever have created. Now, I'm sorry, that there is no bigger and truer thing to say to, like, your child.
Yeah.
And to hear that at a young age, and probably constantly, if you think that the rest of her growing up, there is nothing nicer you can say to your children, to say that, you know, you are the best thing I've ever created, I've ever done. And I've having not ever heard that.
Yeah.
From my dad. I that's why I watched it over and over again. And you imagine yourself in her little red shoes and thinking, and just that house. I want to live there as well.
God, the house is gorgeous. The fathers are gorgeous.
Yeah.
All 3 of them.
Yeah. And they're great actors in there as well. Yeah. They're really, really funny. Fiona Shaw is in it.
Oh my God, Fiona Shaw is in this, crushing it. Honestly, all of the names were coming up on the opening credits, and I was like, what? My third note here is this cast.
Oh, I know.
It's amazing. I had no idea. And we recently spoke about Ted Danson. I didn't know he was in this, and then I said, so I've really only noticed Ted Danson since The Good Place came out.
Yeah.
So I only know white-haired old Ted Danson, and now I'm going handsome. That man aged like fine wine.
Yeah.
He truly did. I don't really know, and I don't really know Tom Selleck. I think he was, I don't know Friends, but I believe he was Monica's
yes, he
boyfriend
was.
in Friends.
Yeah. Those dimples. Yeah.
Bloody hell. Like, oh God. I was like, I get it. I've like heard things about Tom Selleck, and Tom Selleck is handsome and he's a leading man, and I was like, whatever.
He for me is more than George Clooney.
But my goodness, there's a bit in this movie where he turns to Sylvia at the end and he just over and over says, I love you. I love this about you, and I love that about you, and
I love the way you do this.
I
love the way you bite your lip when you're feeling nervous.
And you're doing
I
it
love
right
that.
now.
And I think,
So you talk about like wanting Ted Danson to tell you that you're his biggest accomplishment. I paused this movie. I rewound it, and I rewatched Tom Selleck saying, I love you. I
And
love
did
the
you
way
stand in the position as though he was talking, right?
I was like,
Emily,
I'm craving this.
Talk
I
to
need
me.
this like healthy, normal, sweet, sincere. It's a kids movie, and people always. What I love about this podcast is so often. You think kids' movies are going to be phoned in and they're going to be half-assed because who gives a shit about kids? They're kids, they're stupid, they don't care, they don't know. But no, every single kids' movie is way better than anyone gives it credit for, and the acting in this, it is so funny. They pull off every joke that is given to them, and his acting at the end... is so sincere and so real that I had to rewind it.
It is. Even me now, like I'm getting goosebumps over it.
It's so lovely.
And there's a Morris, for those who like cars, Morris Traveller in there. It does get damaged significantly, but it is a beautiful car, and I have one because of that film.
Amazing. I mean, I get so excited when American movies come over to England, and I did not know that this was going to happen. So I didn't realise Sylvia is English, and when it first started, I was like, what is her accent? It is a bit weird, and I don't know if she's an American putting on an English accent and that's why it's weird, or if she's just a bit weird. I don't know, but there's something going on there. And so halfway through the movie, Sylvia agrees to marry her director, which is a bit dodgy, who's like ugly, let's be honest, compared to the three gorgeous men that she lives with.
What's she thinking?
And they decide to move to England, and he of course lives in like Kentwell Hall, essentially, and he's dreadful to marry. And again, it's that excitement of knowing that at one point that man's trousers is going to drop and he's going to show his whole ass, and I can't wait for it. I'm like,
and I hope everyone sees
it when like he's going to be horrible to Mary, he's going to ship her off to boarding school or something, and that's exactly what he does. And you're like, yes. So it's so satisfying, and I love seeing England from an American's point of view because they always take them to like essentially Norfolk and Suffolk. It's
Slightly
either London or like the deep countryside.
And they find someone with the thickest accent to go, because imagine a mini, beautiful red mini is surrounded by sheep. Well, if you go that way, you won't get it. Don't go that way. And then you think, thing is, I've been on journeys like that. It's not even exaggerated. It's not. It's lovely. I love that transition to England as well. Again, the house is humongous but cold.
Yeah, like truly like Tudor mansion with single pane glasses and a butler who again is just such a funny character playing games with Mary. It's so charming.
What did you make of the mother-in-law? The mother. The mother.
The
grandmother.
Grandmother. So again,
great casting.
Deliciously. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? So she's meant to be almost a sub-villain in that all she wants is for Sylvia to get married and have a stable
in England
thing in England, and then because that's what's right. And again, I've come from a family where the generations above have pushed those messages onto the generations just above me, who have then suffered for having those messages pushed on them. So now that generation's trying really hard to the generation below them to whilst having them in the back of their head, trying to quash them, because we know that dogs are okay instead of grandchildren, and we're going to do our best and we're going to support our children.
You can
even
be a Catwoman.
We've decided that we would really, really love them to get married, and like that's what our parents told us to do, and all these things. So she's a product of that very much, but it's only looking at it through a like 30-year-old lens that I'm like, ooh, like I kind of sympathise with her because I can see where she's come from and she just wants the best for her daughter. But in the realms of the movie, she's meant to be like the wicked witch.
And what I love about it is that you've got the three dads in the house when she comes over to visit, and they're just, your mother-in-law jokes times 3 in a way. It's like there's one bit where the two of the dads have brought in all of her bags and everything, all very expensive, lovely bags, and Jack comes to the top of the stairs and goes, "What? No furniture?" And you think, yeah. And then he goes, "Is it me or did it just get cold in here?" Just think, it's very just the way that America meets England, and like the huge stereotypes. I wonder, like going back to relationships and things, whether this is probably massive generalisation or stereotype, are Americans more playful when it comes to parenting than British parents, do you think?
That's really interesting, especially in the movies. We really got the extreme of what you'd understand a British childhood to be like, which is strict boarding school, Miss Trunchbull vibes. But then American movies, meeting the parents is always still scary as well.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's class really has to come into that conversation.
That's
because
true, yeah.
More often than not, a non-playful childhood comes from a more wealthy family and vice versa. And so in the realm of film, whenever you need someone to have had a strict background, usually that's come with wealth and expectation and pressure. And that will always be the difference, I think. And so Sheila is an actress, and you can only really pursue acting successfully if you come from a wealthy background. Yeah. Like generalisation there, but more often than not, we've got the cast of Eton currently leading every movie that comes out at the moment. So, yeah, it's an interesting question.
It is.
I wonder as well, though, if it's because when you have mostly men, firstly, Sylvia's not going to have to get harassed and annoyed and run down in a way that a normal housewife would, and that makes her aggy and annoyed and stricter because she's sharing all the chores and she's sharing all the hard work with these three other men.
Yeah, and I loved that they'd voted Peter, one of the dads, to be the dad of organisation, because he's an architect, he's very organised. And it just appears that they've all got their roles within, and maybe if it is split a bit more,
because there's more room for people to have fun.
For people who are in a relation, like a heterosexual relationship of man and woman, and you've got children, it still is, unfortunately, if you tell yourself truthfully, the woman of the household doing the majority of the I'd say I call it mother load, but the chances are the mother will know the sizes of what pants your kids need. They'll know the term dates of school. They'll know when the kids' parties are, and that's no criticism. It's about really having to look honestly at your relationship and sharing those roles. And they seem to have had that conversation in this film. I love that the cooking falls to Sylvia, and she's hopeless. She's
so bad at it. That was one of my first notes. I love it when a woman can't cook because it's so rare that you see it.
Yeah.
And she makes the most bizarre concoctions.
Liver mousse and poached eggs. And there's this one scene where, and we've all done it, let's be honest, trying to get a cake out of a cake tin, and it ain't coming out. And she's, and when she comes out, she's like, I'll just slop some brown chocolate on there. Yes, and looks like a pile of shit, doesn't it? Enjoy.
And
they eat it. There's just that's the dynamic.
Respectful and supportive.
Yeah. Whereas Edward, when she serves up her liver mousse and poached egg, says, we do have a butler we do have staff for that. And she's, but I enjoy doing it.
And they know that, and he says that at the end. I love your liver mousse.
Yeah. We're a mess.
Literally a mess.
I can't go on about how fabulous this film is. Really, the music
so
as well is another
the
really
music's
energetic.
I mean, it opened, as you said, with this mural being painted on the wall, and it's gorgeous, and it's got this funky song, and we're seeing New York, and they're moving into this gorgeous
fast-forwarded
house
as well, which I think is really effective.
Really clever. And so I was just immediately on board. I was like, funky. Yeah. And they're all there with their turned up 90s jeans and their cool jumpers, and they're not, you know what it is as well, the most attractive thing in a man, other than being able to dance really well, is laughing at yourself.
Yeah.
And they can all do that. They don't take themselves too seriously. They don't take each other too seriously, but they are still able to have serious conversations. I mean, there was just so many good just going back to the mother in response to the men being goofy, there's a wonderful moment where they do a rap.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Just as the mother-in-law's turned out, or the grandma's.
Do you want me to sing you a lullaby? I want a rap song. And they all three of them do it. Whereas you think, Peter won't do it because he's a serious one. But he's part of it, and all just so silly, and I love that. When you can tap into your parents' silly side, that's when it's the best
that's
of
when
them.
it's the fun. Yeah, exactly. And it must be so hard, because you as a child must be such hard work, and there's so much.
So easy to say no.
It's so easy to say no. It's so easy to be stressed.
Yeah.
It's so easy to be mean.
But actually, I know it's really hard to do, but if you are a parent listening, take yourself on their level and get into that imagination with them, because it's far nicer than the real world, and they'll soon learn that.
Yeah.
I love nothing more than dancing in a silly way with Billy, and putting on river dance and pretending I can do it.
Oh my God, yes.
And it's great. And
yeah, exactly. And my poor mum, when we grew up, my dad was fully ready for children. He was 10 years older than my mum, and so he'd married her and was children time. And she was clearly still coming around to the idea of my entire childhood.
I didn't know my body could do that. Hang on.
What the fuck
That's what it's for.
And then, whereas my dad was ready for children, so he was always really playful and really imaginative and really creative and really hands-on in that way. And so mum would always come across as a bit more spiky and level-headed, because it's they need.
And was she carrying a lot of
completely everything? She was carrying everything.
She didn't have the headspace for it,
and she was working.
Yeah,
so,
she didn't have the headspace for it, and that's actually what's also not fair, is that when
so then she's the villain
for
because
practically getting them dressed,
literally,
and putting clothes on,
and you can see that when you're 26.
Of course you can.
When you're 6, you're
oh, Dad's fun, you're not.
Dad said that we could go swimming, why are you saying that we can't? And she's like, because of a million reasons that your father could have just checked the diary to know, but has refused because it's so much easier. It's a movie, I can't remember which one, but they talk about it it's really easy to turn around and be oh, let's go and do this, oh, let's go and do that. I think it's Nativity, weirdly, Martin Freeman talking to the thing, and he's like, it's anyone can do that, any idiot can say let's go see a sheep, but you need to also teach them morals and goodness and
practicalities.
and
absolutely,
exactly.
It's a really difficult balance, but I say again, those discussions into the roles that you're gonna fulfill, spice it up. There's nothing nicer. My husband and I, we don't get it right all the time, but there are days that he has Billy, days that I have Billy, and we try and swap the roles around as well. If you're watching telly with your kids, put on Bluey if they're quite young, because
I've been meaning to watch that.
That is you'll like it, and it's really enjoyable to watch anyway, because it's just silly. But they've obviously, the parents on there have had a discussion about not necessarily what roles, but the way they're going to parent their children. And so many people don't talk about that.
Yeah.
Before you decide to have children, or perhaps when one of you are pregnant, you need to maybe just discuss, because don't forget, you are coming from your own family experience of being raised by whoever, and they are coming from what you think might be a similar upbringing. But I promise you it isn't. You get twins, they will have had a different experience growing up. Even though they've been put together all the time. Their outlook on life is so different. And you've put these two people together to then raise their own. Take the best bits from yours, the best bits from theirs, and try and work out what your triggers are and what makes you cross, and work on yourself on that. That's what I found it just being... that's what I've loved and found really difficult about becoming a new parent, is
I bet.
Just oh wow, I have these tricks. I can't cope with food waste. I find that really difficult, and for whatever reason, if we're cooking and flour goes somewhere, I'm catch the flour, and it makes me really angry, and I need to learn to I don't know why I'm like that. And it's because my grandma raised us really with my mum and dad both working, and she was always a stickler for waste. No, don't waste that. No, let's scrape that up off there and put that in there. So it's amazing what
you've picked up.
Yeah, what
and
things
then you bring in
that you'd never know that you had until perhaps you have children or a dog. There are things that the dog triggers me in many, many ways.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But it was a joy rewatching this film the other day. It was and I realised stuff in it that I'd never heard the word horny, and I never really knew what that meant. And I was like, oh, he says horny.
So funny. You think of kids' movies nowadays, and safe feels like a very loaded word, but this movie, I assume, is for children.
Yeah.
Obviously adults as well. They say bastard, they say penis.
Yeah.
But what's wonderful about that is, of course, a 6-year-old is going to say penis.
Yeah.
Because, I assume, because they'll have heard it somewhere. And then it's all very... The dads try and navigate that, and then Sylvia takes it upon herself to navigate it. And again, it just... And they laugh about it as well, and they laugh about how each other reacts to it.
What I like
so
about
wholesome.
the swearing that's in there is that it's impactful. I don't like. I'm not a prude by any means, but I find it if every other word is a swear word in a film, I find that just a bit boring actually. Whereas like a proper "you bastard" is just it's exactly what it says on the tin, isn't it?
Yeah, literally.
It wants to cause pain, and hopefully it does.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. I'm just going to run through some lines that I've written down that I love. After the rap, the grandma literally leans back and she's like, I need a drink. It's so good.
I imagine any grandparents, there are moments.
Just had to watch that. Like,
the next generation, you're looking on just going, yeah, I don't know what they're doing.
What is happening?
It's bizarre.
Edward, the new husband, has a go at Ted Danson and behind his back and says that his acting's not very good in commercial. He couldn't act constipated very well. Ted gets really riled up and he's like, go on, you do it. You act constipated. I just found that really funny.
There are funny bits in that. Because he also says, like, truthfully, he says, when you were constipated on that time, I really believed. And he does start taking that as a compliment. And then everyone else is like, huh? It's really clever. It's very funny.
It's such good stuff. And Sylvia does a classic slap at one point. She gets really riled up and slaps, which is always a really interesting conversation.
Yeah.
And Ted Danson responds with, well, they're for it now. They love each other. I still love the first woman that hit me.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
And probably and true. It's, in this case, true.
Oh, it's definitely true.
I like that they have that really honest conversation later on of like, you love her.
Yeah.
And it's like this epiphany that hits him. It's like, yeah. But she doesn't, and they answer all of these questions about what type of love there is.
Yes.
It's the Greeks, isn't it, who've got like 7 different words for love.
Yeah.
And they just describe so beautifully. They do all love each other.
They say it as well. I've got a note here, men saying they love each other.
Yeah, you say, I love you. You're a great friend. You need to say stuff
Men
like that.
don't say they love each other. Even Lord of the Rings, which is one of the greatest male
isn't it?
friendships,
Yeah.
they don't say they love each other, I don't think. Maybe they do. But like men saying they
You'd
love
remember
each other.
it if they said it.
It was a huge thing as well when Colin Farrell recently took his Golden Globe for The Banshees of Inisherin and he said, I love you, Brendan Gleeson, I love you. And it's like, yes, more men should tell each other that they love each other.
Yes, they should, and they do in this film. And it's
from 1990.
I know, yeah. I wonder if they felt, I don't know.
Did they know? It's so funny because it's like, was this a joke? Was all of this meant to be a joke? Is it meant to be a bit quirky that they say that they live together, that they say they love each other, or was someone really onto it and being like, I'm going to do the most wholesome thing?
Yeah, because it is wholesome. There's no piss take in this.
Yeah.
There is like there are moments where Tom Selleck is particularly just it's just beautiful acting. It's just
honestly, the acting in this film is above and beyond. It's so good.
And you think like no director, if you were going to try and do it as a piss take, you'd be like, oh well, I need to change that. And it's not like that at all. It's beautiful. He's beautiful.
Really wonderful moment where Ted Danson dresses up as the vicar to try and mess up the wedding at the end, and he's got these horrible prosthetics on, and he doesn't look like actual old man Ted Danson at all. He looks gross and awful. But then there's a wonderful reveal where it's like, haha, the marriage is not real because I was a fake vicar the whole time. Also, that wraps up my little arc of everyone thinking that I'm a shit actor and I'm not a shit actor because I duped all of you. But he's like ripping off all of the prosthetics in the most dramatic. He like rips his ears off and hands it to the vicar. Then he rips his mouth off.
I wonder how many times he did that.
And it's just fantastic. And then again, it is just followed up quite reasonably so by another absolutely fantastic line from Sheila Hancock. I've died and gone to hell.
I've died and gone to hell. Another bit I love from the wedding scene is when is when Edward's butler starts standing up and down.
I'm doing a wave.
I'm starting a wave.
And it goes on for so long. We've just cut to the audience of the wedding as we're waiting for the vicar to show up and we're waiting for the groom to show up. And he's just standing up and sitting down.
And lifting his arms.
And sitting down. And the people next to him are sort of looking at him.
And you are, as a member of the audience, like, what the hell is he doing?
Is he like looking for something? Is he trying to get someone's attention? And then he just turns to the person next to him. I'm trying to start a wave. It's so funny, and it holds nothing to the plot.
No.
But it's a genuinely funny moment. Like, whoever, like, was that improvised? Like, I don't know. It was
He's
fantastic,
a great actor.
though.
Yeah, he
So
played
good.
being old superbly.
So well.
I going to the boarding school Pileforth Academy.
Oh my God.
Wasn't it horrible? And like, people still go to these schools. And I know that opens up a huge can of worms. And that's fine with me. But I know that I could never send my children to
Complete silence in the dinner hall.
Yeah. Rigid walking down the corridors.
Uniforms.
Yeah.
It's like no personality, no nothing. And yet Fiona Shaw, who's the headmistress, is like batty.
Yeah.
She's completely batty. So it's like, well, why aren't you installing any of that energy into
It's what she's known.
this
It's what she's known, isn't it? That's
thing?
yeah.
Like nightmare school?
It reminded me of the Demon Headmaster. Like how that used to.
Really
That's
odd
weird.
and off-putting, which is great when it's like that's the villain of the piece,
Yeah.
like being sent to boarding school.
But she's a great character in it.
And I
love her.
love that the headmistress comes around, and she's so game as well. She thinks Tom Selleck's coming for her, and then he's not, and she's like, "Oh, no worries, we'll go and save your wedding."
He is so gentle to her, though.
I think he could have told her the truth a lot earlier.
Yes, obviously.
I was a little bit like, just put her out of her misery, for God's sake.
But I loved how he said, he was really kind to her. Said, you are a really attractive lady, and he says that so sincere, to the point where she goes, I know. and you think, yeah, good for you, you should know, because every woman is beautiful, and you damn well are as well, even though you're bonkers. In fact, it's because you're bonkers that you're so beautiful.
You're so mad.
She should go out with Edward. There we are, solved it.
No, she
No
deserves better.
Yeah, she does,
than
actually.
Edward's horrible. And again, it's that that sort of sneaky horrible of like, darling, we're going to the National, I want you to be my Helena in A Midsummer, and it's not because we're dating that I've chosen you, and it's like, the rest of the cast isn't going to think that, I assure you.
No, it's everything that it's, the fact that he wears a waistcoat as well. He'd be one of those, can I say, wanky people who would wear a scarf as well, like a white short scarf. You think,
oh God, and he'd flick it and go, darling, and you'd be like, bleh.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Oh, Sylvia, what were you thinking?
Oh, Sylvia, honestly, and it's because she was panicking, because she knew, and again, she's true to herself. She has so many reviews I read of this were like, Sylvia has no grasp on her own ability to do anything, and it's like, yes, she does. She's being pressured by her mother, and she's reasonably thinking about her career.
Yeah.
Because it does open up the conversation of like, well, actually, I also have needs. I do want to go and play Helena at the National, because that would be an astounding achievement of my career.
Yeah.
And if I'm able to do that, that's great. But my daughter 100% comes first, to the point where she was going to turn it down. And she's convinced that she should be able to do both.
And she didn't want to let down the dads in her life as well.
Yeah, she's like, they all love her. I couldn't rip her away from them.
She was trying to, I think, she was making a stand for herself. But I say like trying to have it all. I hate that phrase, because I think all women can, and it's not about having it all. It's about having equal opportunities.
Yeah, and all implies that you're doing everything to 100% as well.
Which makes me sad that she's like, she sees that marriage is what gives her that, and it's
adds
like
to that, and it will with the right person.
Yeah,
because. Oh,
I want to know what happens next.
Me
I want
too.
to know.
I want 3 men and a teenager.
Yeah, I want to know if they all stay in the same house.
Yeah.
Or whether the other 2 dads stay and live somewhere.
Because there was another sort of mini subplot where the third dad, the satirist, was trying to hook up with this woman a lot.
Carrie.
And that was a struggle with the child in the house. I want them to Tim Burton and Helena costume drama it and get like 3 adjoining houses so they can sort of live. So he can have his private time with his woman if he wants, but then he can also pop round and like parent Mary on a Saturday morning or something. That's
nice. Yeah. I think we need more. We need more answers.
Yeah.
Whether the time has passed.
This is the kind of time that this kind of property, if it was proven to make enough money, there's no reason why Disney Plus wouldn't do either mini series. You know, they're bringing everything back. I literally cannot even begin to list the amount of properties that are being brought back into the mainstream rather than original ideas.
Well, I think your people speak to their people. And
we'll get the ball rolling.
We'll get the, I mean,
because they're all still around.
I'll buy it. I mean, there's one viewer here who will definitely buy it.
Definitely on board. Because Ted Danson's looking better than ever. I'm sure the little girl's still around.
Maybe
is Tom Selleck still around? I'm sure
maybe it'd be like what would Mary be doing? What would she be doing now? Would she be
like an architect, or would she be
a creative? Would she be none of that?
I can't imagine her rejecting it so far that she'd be like an accountant. I think she'd be like
how would she split her time? Like she'd have her own diary.
It'd have to be she's come back from you. It'd have to be like she's getting married, or
I don't want her to get married.
Well, I know. I was thinking that's the obvious route because it's too far along now for her to be going to university.
Yeah. It was progressive then. It needs to be progressive now.
Yeah. Well, if she's getting married, she's getting married to a woman.
Yeah, definitely.
But I don't want her to get married. Maybe she's taking what's a big milestone in somebody's life that you all get together for, or it could just be a slice of life where again we just.
I mean, it could be a Thanksgiving moment. There needs to be a Thanksgiving dinner in it. A bit like, could it be like Fleabag second series?
Oh.
Could it be something like that where it's just utter carnage? Oh, I can't lie. I don't want it to go too dark because it's all happy.
Yeah, it's got to be wholesome. That's the whole vibe. Wholesome and progressive. The way for these things to work is that somebody has to be dead. I'm really sorry.
One of the dads, yeah.
But somebody has to have died.
I think it could be.
And maybe it's the funeral that we all come back for.
Yeah. And I think maybe it needs to be like the strain of Sylvia and Tom Selleck's character of like she's left home. All kids are leaving home, or maybe they didn't have any more children and face that journey together.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're still like fostering or adopting and it's utter carnage.
Oh yeah, like the Steve Martin one when he's got like 1 million kids.
Yeah. Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Leave it with us. I mean, we've got ideas.
I definitely think there's scope for it. I think there's an audience for it. I think it's time for it. And it's the perfect sort of IP to bring back.
Yeah. There we are.
Oh, it's so cute. Even the posters.
It's lovely, isn't it?
So cute.
I'm so pleased you got to watch it and enjoyed it.
I'm so happy that you suggested it. It's a real joy. Like I was so gutted with all of the letterboxd reviews of people being like 1.5 star, and I'm like,
you know nothing of life.
You know nothing. Exactly. Like it's so easy to watch this kind of thing, and they must be doing like, why would you, as a like 40-year-old male, sit down and watch this other than to then be like, oh, that was awful? And it's like, well, there's not. You're clearly not taking. There's lots of things there for you. You're just clearly not going to take them, or you're going to find it silly.
It doesn't connect with you.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That doesn't mean it doesn't connect with a hell of a lot of other people.
Bad.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
it connected with me in a way that I cried several times when I rewatched it recently. And I just and it was just beautiful. It was more beautiful than I remember. And bearing in mind, I watched it over and over and over and over and over and over again. It was my comfortable, happy place.
Yeah. I love that.
And I take from that, like, I hope to be as fun a parent as I can be.
Yes.
Like they are with dear Mary.
Yeah.
Lucky girl.
Are you going home this afternoon and
I want to give him a big
mural?
hug. Yeah, I'm gonna write on all the work. My husband will go mental. The thing is, I can't draw. I'm creative in different ways, but kids hear enough no's. Let's just fill them with yeses.
Mm-hmm.
That's me.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
It's been a pleasure. More like therapy, really, Emily.
Well, this is you know what? This is why I love this podcast, because it's what it is. You, as a kid, and I know not everyone grew up watching movies, but I did, and I learnt a lot and I grew a lot from them, and I like to think that lots of other people did. And as you say, this was almost like a father figure for you.
Yeah.
And it's a film, and that's mad, but it's so important and it's so relatable in so many ways.
And watching, growing up watching films, I always connected. If ever I felt ill at school, I always wanted to go home, have a tub of chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream and watch The Little Mermaid or this, or such just things that brought extreme comfort of being at home. Now, thankfully, like Mary, my home was always really comfortable. I always felt really happy at home. So I emulate that. I'd like to emulate that as much as possible. But the ice cream, I just that and oh dearie me, it's not healthy, but there we are. Never mind.
Who cares? It's not
Films,
meant to be.
brilliant. Yay! Thanks, Emily.